First of all, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We are experiencing some pretty tough times at the moment and interesting times. There has been a lot happen even in the last 7 days, even in the last 7 hours, but you know, the last 7 to 14 days, I don't think any of us have seen anything like it. So we thought it was very important to get on the front foot and let our clients know, what is happening. Let them know that we are doing our very best to keep across everything that is moving and changing so very quickly. So hopefully we are a couple of minutes in. I'm not sure. I think we do have a couple of stragglers about to jump on board. But I would like to kick off because, as I said, I'd like to get everyone off the call by 2 o'clock at the latest. And I also want to be able to allow enough time for questions at the end. So if everyone is happy, I just firstly, and please bear with me, I am dealing with technology at this end, which although our office is operating remotely at the moment, I am in the office, so I'm dealing with a few things in isolation here. So if I do go wrong somewhere, I'm sure someone will let me know. So I also apologise in advance if we don't quite get this right today. This is our very first seminar webinar we've run on this topic. And we pretty much pulled it together in the last 24, 48 hours. So thanks very much to Claude and Serena and the rest of our team here. So today, as I said, myself and Claude Colliker, the two of us pretty much head up the accounting, tax and advisory arm of Here Business and Wealth. I know most of the people on the call, but for those of you that don't, we are a multidisciplinary financial services practice that provides accounting, tax and advisory, corporate advisory, strategic advice and financial planning. But we are predominantly at the moment talking about tax today, as well as a number of other issues that are related to business and business advisory. So that is really the focus of where we're at. It is very important that we help people get through this messy time. So I'll move on from this. We have got our contact details. Serena tells me we will send out the PowerPoint after this, as well as I believe there might be a recording available. So if you want to share it with someone, please feel free to do so. Look, a little bit of housekeeping. I have started the meeting with everyone's microphones off. I will ask you to keep it that way, please, just so that we can work through. And then, as I said, you will have plenty of opportunities to ask questions at the end. And if you do have questions at the end, I suggest you use the chat function. Serena's pulling all of those together. The chat function is on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen, or in my case, the top of the screen. As I said, just ask questions via this platform. We'll come back to you. If we get caught up, Claude or I will respond in due course. So today, what we really are going to cover, and I'm going to keep it hopefully brief, but the main part of today's discussion, I believe, will revolve around the government stimulus package. We are talking also about state government, but predominantly everyone's interested in the Commonwealth government. Coming via the ATO. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about tax and how you access some of the benefits. We'll talk about business planning and continuity, and that's more general in relation to, well, it's not really related to tax, but it's revolves mostly around your business itself. We did ask for some questions prior to the session, so thank you very much for those that put their questions in. We've formulated some responses, but we will go through and answer those as well. And then I will open up for further questions, okay? And talk to you about how we can possibly continue to help you and guide you along. And before I do get into the meat of this, I do want to say that, as I said earlier, this is there's some really tough times out there. There's some tough circumstances for clients. We're seeing a lot of pain and a lot of grief, unfortunately, particularly with clients where they've had to close their doors. But that's had flow-on effects where people have lost jobs, people who supply those businesses. So we're feeling it. We've been dealing with it, particularly this week. My voice, if it breaks up, that's because I am just about out of puff when it comes to talking. So I'm looking forward to having a bit of a rest this afternoon. But we are working very hard to help clients get through this. And I'm hoping, and I am the eternal optimist, but I'm hoping that we will get through this in due course and get to the other side and hopefully recover and look back and, learn some things from it, but hopefully everyone gets back on their feet and can move on from it. So I'll continue on because everyone's here not to listen to me, but to hear what's in this for their business and for themselves. So the $189 billion government stimulus package that has been broadcast publicly is broken up into two areas, for business and for individuals. Our main focus is in relation to business. However, we will talk about what individuals can access. So, and I will step through this. So I'll look to Claude as well to put his hand up or butt in if he thinks I need to dwell a bit more on it. But the main areas in relation to business are what's referred to as a wage subsidy scheme. Now, we are all hearing about this. This is where everyone's saying that the ATO is going to give them some money, or the government is. This is effectively a system that is set up for employers. Okay, so if you are a business that employs people, whether it be third party or yourselves as employees in that business, then the tax department will effectively give you a tax-free payment equal to 100% of the tax you are deducting from their wages. Okay, so, and that is up to a maximum of $100,000, but that is over the coming 6 months. So it kicked off from the 12th of March. And at that time you needed to be registered as a payer. We can talk to you separately about those issues if you have one. But it effectively means that if you, for example, for the March quarter, you had employees, you withheld $10,000 from their wages, and normally you would pay that to the tax department, then what will happen this quarter is you won't pay it to the tax department. You will get a credit for that $10,000. Now, the mechanics of all of this we're not quite seeing because the BASs aren't out and we're not able to lodge them yet with this in place. But come 1 April, we would be encouraging everyone to get their BAS done ASAP to take advantage of this, because it doesn't mean the ATO is going to give you a check. It does mean that you will get a credit for money you would normally send to the tax department, if that makes sense. So hopefully I have explained that well enough. We'll go through a worked example shortly to explain that a bit further. The same will apply in the June quarter and then in quarters subsequent to this financial year. Okay, if you are monthly, the same will apply each month. And if you are already on a monthly payment program, you actually get the benefit of what you've withheld over the last quarter. Claude, that's correct, isn't it? Is the way you're saying?
Right. Yeah, correct. So basically from what we can gather is if you are monthly PAYG withholding lodges, then whatever the amount is for the month of March, the government says that you get back 300%, which is in effect the previous, for March and the previous 2 months as well. So that's correct, yeah. So it's basically 300% of what your March amount is, if you're a monthly lodger.
Okay, thanks, Claude. And there is also another, if you like, flaw built into this, that there will be a minimum of $20,000 for each business, even if they're not required to withhold tax. Now, again, that's as an employer, Claude?
Yeah, so basically that is if you still pay wages. However, if the the wages that you've paid to your employees are below the tax-free threshold, so you don't have to withhold tax, then you are still entitled to a $20,000 credit when you lodge your BASs. So that sort of helps you if you still have employees, but you're not required to withhold tax. You still get access to $20,000 over the coming months.
So, and again, it's $10,000 this year, and I believe $10,000 next financial year or first quarter. Is that right, Paul?
But yeah, $10,000 for this quarter.
First 4 months. First 4 months next year.
Yeah.
So, look, as I said, there's some detail in here that we haven't quite gotten from the ATO, but the mechanics of it are, if you're an employer, you are entitled to either PAYG withholding to be covered by the ATO, or a base of $10,000 this financial year, $10,000 next financial year. So as I said, we will work through an example shortly that might explain that a bit further. We can direct you to some work examples online, and we can also talk to you offline as well if that helps. So, so for the moment, hopefully that's making sense to everyone. If there are still concerns about it, perhaps raise your questions closer to the end. We will explain a bit further when we get through to the FAQs. Okay, so in relation to businesses, the wage subsidy scheme is the big ticket item that the ATO have brought out so far, or the government. It's my personal opinion, and I could be well wrong on this, but given where this is trending, I believe the ATO or the government potentially could come out with a bit more in the coming days, maybe even hours, but potentially in the next couple of weeks, given what's going on, because there's certain measures in here that are very effective, others that are not. So please keep an eye out for things, be prepared to talk to us, stay in touch, okay? So if I continue on, similar to this, in relation to apprentices and trainees, if you have registered apprentices and trainees, the government will pay half of their wages for the 9 months up to September 2020. So again, this goes back to 1 January. So this is in effect trying to keep these people employed. This is what it's about, trying to keep people employed in business so that businesses can keep operating. That one's pretty straightforward. And if you have apprentices or trainees, you know you have to have them registered through the appropriate bodies. So again, we do have a few clients like that. So happy to have a chat if anyone's concerned. For business as well, they talk about, oh, have I missed a page here? No. There is the SME guarantee scheme. This is where the government have come out and said they will guarantee 50% of loans, as in they will share the pain with any banks, as I understand it, with new unsecured loans being made to small business. So what I might do is I might park this one here because we'll talk about this in a bit more detail shortly, but the Australian Banking Association also came out and said that Australian banks will defer loan repayments for small business for 6 months. So again, I'm going to come back to it because we're going to talk about banks and funding and financing shortly, but just keep these two aspects of the government package in mind when we get closer to the end. For business as well, these are the early measures that came out. Okay, now this is what a government, one of the levers that the government usually utilises to stimulate activity in the business world. Allowing businesses to have greater write-offs, as in claim a bigger tax deduction for assets bought. These, I believe, will not do the trick. Again, my personal opinion, but I believe given the current environment, most businesses are stockpiling cash wherever possible or preserving it, you know, to save their business. So it's unlikely that this will actually stimulate the growth that the government originally envisaged. However, these were the first measures that came out 2 weeks ago, I believe, before things got as serious as they currently are. So the important part of this, though, for us is to keep them in the back of our mind if we are considering or we are required to acquire some assets. There's some very, very generous concessions on in play for us. So it effectively means, as it says, you can write off an asset, and motor vehicles are in inverted commas because they're treated slightly differently. But if you had a piece of equipment in your business that cost up to $150,000, you can claim an immediate tax deduction for that this financial year. Okay, so very generous, however, might be utilised a lot less than they originally thought. Okay, so again, happy to come back to this. The accelerated depreciation, similar to a degree, where you can write it off a lot quicker than you would previously have been able to do. Okay. This next measure is not Commonwealth government, it is state government, it's payroll tax, and it is usually for payers that have a big payroll or a large-ish payroll. So you need to be employing a reasonable number of people. But for those people that do have a payroll of in excess of $1 million, the state government is going to give you a credit of $17,500 back this financial year. Okay, so it's for people that have a payroll between $1 and $4 million. The state government have effectively ramped up or brought forward some increases that they had in mind. So again, that doesn't apply to everyone, but I was consulting with a business that's this morning that was on the brink. They will tip over that $1 million this financial year. So the state government will cut them a cheque for $17,500. It does also bode well for the future if you're in that area, because it means payroll tax will reduce and therefore you've got more cash. A lot of these measures, as I said, are about keeping people employed. Okay, we're not seeing what is happening in the UK yet, where there are wage subsidies, actual subsidies, so that people can be maintained as employees. That is, again, something that the ATO could come out with, or the government. We're not hearing anything, but that could be another step. So again, just keep your ear to the ground with these sorts of things. And this other measure, again, this is administered by the Commonwealth government. It's not necessarily a handout, but the Australian Securities and Investment Commission have come out and said they will no longer strictly apply the Corporations Act in relation to insolvent trading. So normally if you were in business and you were trading whilst insolvent, and sadly there are a lot of businesses out there currently that are insolvent, under normal circumstances you must cease trading, put your hand up, seek assistance from a liquidator, an insolvency practitioner, or somebody in that profession that can assist you, and you must notify ASIC. You follow a process. ASIC have made the unusual step of saying they're going to give relief in that area temporarily. They're going to say, we will not fine you, we will not imprison you, we will not find you guilty of anything under the current circumstances, which is understandable. Again, that's not something that you're going to get some money or you need to, make application for. However, it shows the government is genuinely recognising the circumstances, and they're not going to crucify people through something outside of their control. In relation to individuals, and this is something that does affect, again, a number of our clients, but even some of our business people, business clients, where they are sole traders or they find themselves, unfortunately, in a position where their business has had to close the doors. So 2 steps to this: the coronavirus supplement payment. This is an amount that will be paid to sole traders, job seekers and casual employees, the type of people that we saw on the news lining up outside Centrelink. And it does not commence for another month, sadly, meaning that whoever is registering is not going to get a payment. But that is effectively fast-tracking an unemployment benefit, a new start allowance, those sorts of things. So it is saying if you were in business and you're no longer, or you were employed and you're no longer, you need to get to Centrelink, register, and get access to this payment.
I do believe,
Sorry, Claude.
I do believe on that supplement payment, I believe I read somewhere where even though the payment won't commence until 27th of April, it'll be backdated to when you apply, I believe. So,
right, okay.
I think that's the case, but yeah, don't quote me, but I read somewhere or heard somewhere that they are backdating it to when you basically apply for the benefit.
Okay, thanks for that, Claude. Okay, and the $750, again, this was the amount that was offered to, oops, sorry. This was the amount that was offered to Social Security recipients a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so to be paid 31 March and 13th of July, but they were once-offs. They were the old payment that we remember from the Kevin Rudd days, I believe, where you got a stimulus payment. So $750 to current Social Security recipients. So if you're in that position, you may have already got your check. I'm not sure if they've been paid. They're coming on the way, I'd say, as of Tuesday next week. So, but I haven't heard anything further on that. So in relation to individuals, there's not a great deal at the moment. It is about making sure you are covered from an employment point of view. If you're unemployed, talk to Centrelink and get access to some of these things. In relation to individuals as well, this is another area that you need to consider if you are under financial duress. They have opened this up, which again is something that I haven't seen before under any circumstances, where you will be able to access $10,000 of your superannuation. It's across 2 financial years as well, though. So you could be a business person that, again, business has ceased, business has suspended, turnover has reduced. And similarly for employees, okay? However, they are probably pushing people towards Centrelink, but I think under the circumstances, you need to look at your own personal situation and see what is best for you. So again, we can talk to you about this. We're not the experts on superannuation and those sorts of things. I'd pass to my colleague, Norma Falconer, who is our financial planning head. But in relation to super, you need to consider, is that something that you should be doing? Should you be dipping into your super? At the end of the day, it comes back to where you're at personally and financially. How are we going for time? We seem to be running along okay. So I'm hoping that gives you a summary. That is a really high-level snapshot of what the government is doing in relation to this current situation, what you have access to, and how they are putting it out there into the business environment and the workforce. So again, we have some questions that actually tie back to that, and I'm sure we'll get some questions at the end of the session as well. But what I've got here, and this is a case study that Claude has pulled together for us. So what I may do is get him to quickly go through this. We won't go through line by line, but I will ask him to just summarize it. And as I said, this will get sent out to all participants on the webinar today, and we can also direct you. There's a number of others on the ATO website even, but this one will probably go up on our website, I would say. So bear with me. I'm just going to flick across to the case study, and that did not work. So just give me, here we go. So hopefully, Claude, can you see the case study up there now?
No, not yet, Kel.
All right, let me just pull that up for us. Okay, how's that?
There we go.
Okay.
Yep, all good. Hopefully everybody can see that.
I've got it, Claude. You've got it?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah, hopefully everyone else can as well. Kel, would you mind just maybe increasing the size of that if that's possible? Great, thanks. So this is just basically a very simple example. If you are a monthly PAYG withholding. As you can see, this example, you've got Sarah's construction business. She reports monthly her tax withhold amounts, and she reports $15,008 per month. So once she lodges her March BAS, you will see that she will get a credit of $45,024, which represents 3 times $15,008. So that will, like Calvin mentioned before, that will be shown as a credit on your integrated client account with the ATO. I just want to stress, there seems to be a little bit of confusion. A lot of people seem to think that the government is going to physically fork out $45,000 as a cash payment. That's not the case. It is purely a credit of your tax withheld. You will still be responsible for any GST obligation you may have, as well as any company tax installment if you trade as a company. So you can see there's a credit of 45. Now, let's say that once the ATO applies that credit to your account balance, if that causes your balance to be in credit overall, then you can request whatever that remaining balance is, request that as a refund, and that is where you will get a cash refund as such. If your balance on your account was, say, $60,000, you will get the credit of $45,000. Therefore, there'll be $15,000 remaining, which is what you are still liable to pay with the ATO. You can then see on that second dot point that for the month of April, even though Sarah's submitting a $15,008 tax withheld for employees, she can only claim a credit for $4,976. And that's basically because that gets you to the $50,000 cap for this quarter. And then as you can see on the third dot point, no further credits can apply because she reached her cap in the month of April. Once that has happened, you can see further down there, it talks about additional payments of $12,500. So that's where this additional $50,000 stimulus package kicks in, whereby you can apply a credit of $12,500 per month for the following 4 months. So this is if you have obligations to lodge and submit your monthly PAYG withholding. Like I said, you don't actually get a cash payment of these unless your account goes into credit. Again, Calvin did mention before, we're still not quite sure how the machinations of this will all work, but we will know once we start to lodge March BASs. So we've got a number of clients that we prepare and lodge BASs on their behalf. So we'll start to see that in the next couple of weeks, how it all pans out. I'm thinking that if you have a situation where you provide predominantly GST-free services, and I'm sort of thinking if you work in the health profession and associated industries, and I'm thinking physios, doctors, dentals, and the like, where you are not required to charge GST on your income, then if there was a situation in the March BAS where, let's say that your GST was zero, because you're not, or actually you might even be entitled to a GST credit because you can claim credits on the expenses you incur. And then you have, let's say, $10,000 in wages you've withheld, then that will in effect mean that your account in total goes into credit of $10,000. And that's where we can request a refund of that $10,000. But where you have a situation where you do charge GST on your sale of goods and services, sorry, Cal, I've just lost that page.
Sorry, mate.
Well, that's okay. If you do have a situation where you do charge GST on your goods and services, then, and let's say your March BAS consisted of $20,000 on GST owing and another $10,000 on tax withheld, you will get a credit of $10,500 for the tax withheld when you lodge it, but you are still entitled to pay the $20,000 of GST. So the whole idea behind this is to help keep staff employed with assistance. However, from our readings, it does appear that the government says, well, the GST wasn't your money in the first place, therefore it is still required to be paid. So hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you for that, Claude.
More than happy to answer some questions either in the chat or offline at another time.
Look, another important thing to remember with this, guys, is that in Sarah's example here, she actually gets $100,000 that normally she would have paid to the tax man for her withholding. Okay, now that $100,000, so she doesn't have to pay the ATO that amount of money, which is great for her cash flow. But additionally, the government are looking at that saying it is a tax-free payment to businesses. Okay, so that effectively means that your wages are covered, or the tax on your wages is covered. That amount of money is coming into your business as an item of revenue. However, you won't pay tax on that $100,000. So if you are fortunate enough to get access to the full 100, because you do have a number of employers, such as Sarah here, that $100,000 needs to be considered in light of saying, all right, well, the effective pre-tax value of that is more like $130,000, $140,000 of revenue, because normally you would pay tax on that at around about the 30% mark, 27.5% for a company and varying for individuals. But there is significant value if you can get access to these dollars. Okay, so, and take that in the right spirit, because we'll talk about some restrictions on you shortly, unfortunately, but it is extremely valuable if you can get this right, if you are entitled to it, and if you can get that cash flow in your business. So please think long and hard about the numbers, and you know, where you're an employer, access it wherever possible. If we can advance it, if we can, you know, if you've got wages coming up in the next week, 31 March is Tuesday. That's the cutoff for the March BAS, whether it be quarterly or monthly. So keep that in mind over the next 72 hours with everything you do. Okay. So thanks for that, Claude. Look, I will continue on because, so just again, bear with me. I just want to go back to our PowerPoint. Whoops, wrong one. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So again, can everyone see where we are with the case study? Now,
yep.
And Claude, you're right.
Yes,
so I suppose what we really now want to talk about, and it's one of the big questions we've got, okay, how do we get access to it? So we have answered some of those questions, but importantly, the main stimulus package relates to being an employer, okay, and employing people and having, you know, a legitimate business in place from that point of view. So there's certain eligibility criteria, and what I've done is I've put these into my terminology, my simple way of looking at things, okay? So I've just pulled it all together. Basically, you must be in business. You must be registered as a pay-as-you-go withholding payer. That means you have been registered, or you currently are, for withholding tax from employees' payroll and sending it to the ATO. You must have an ABN. Now, to be registered for PAYGW, you must have an ABN anyway, and that means you're in business, and all of that comes up, you're an employer or registered as an employer. So we do have some clients currently that don't have any employees on the books, but they have been registered as an employer. So you are still entitled to some of these incentives. And the final one is your lodging activity statements, but all of these go hand in hand. Okay, so you might say, well, I meet two out of the 5 or 4 out of 5. Pretty much, it's not a sort of, you know, a pick list. You either are or you aren't an employer, but there's certain things that signify that you're an employer. Okay, so talk to us if you're unsure. Look at your BAS, which is If you haven't already got it, it's not far away, and that will indicate a few things as well. Okay, there is a very, very big rider on this, and you know the government are very good, and the Prime Minister and his government have been very generous with some of these packages, and they're doing all the right things. And I think they're moving in the right direction, and they are saying that they are going to give these amounts to business. They're going to help people employ. However, what they're not saying, and this is where we are getting it as accountants, advisors and tax agents, they are saying if anyone tries to rort the system, they will come down hard on people. Okay, so in the one instance, they're making good guys of themselves and giving you all the good news, but we're getting the hard line that they're going to push. Whether they do or not, we don't really know. If it's left to the ATO, they have a lot of things on their plates at the moment. So from that point of view, we just need to see where this goes. However, they are saying that to be an employer, you must have been established as an employer at the 12th of March, 2020. Okay, so they talk about active eligible employers who had an ABN. So keep all of those factors in mind. They are separately, as I said, you won't see this in the papers, I don't believe, but they are telling us day after day after day. We've got all these measures in place. We're happy to help people, but you guys, we're almost the gatekeeper. So they're putting a fair onus on people like Claude and I to make sure it's handled correctly. So happy to chat to you all about this. Happy to talk to you about what can and can't be done and where you've got any scope or whether you've got any scope. So please engage with us. We'll talk about it at the end as well, if you like. So that really deals with our stimulus package from the government. And that it really seems to be where most people are focusing their energies. However, that's only one piece of the puzzle at the moment. And Claude and I in particular, as long as the rest of our team, have been working some very long hours with a number of our clients, and a large number of our clients at the moment, some are really struggling, others are doing really well, and everyone in between. But working with clients to make sure that their business is able to get through this. As I said earlier, this, it is hoped, is a passing issue, okay? Whether it's a week, a month, a year, we don't know how long this is going to have an impact on us. It could be long term. However, it is best if you're a business person, a business owner, or involved in running a business, it's critical you start putting your head or getting your head around what you should be doing right now. A lot of people are saying, well, the government's going to give me money, or the bank's going to give me money. We can't wait for those things either. We need to act. We need to be planning within our business. So that's where we're doing a lot of work at the moment. And I think I've had more Zoom meetings in the last week than I've had in the last 10 years. It has been constant. I keep thinking of people in square boxes up in the corner of my screen now. So it's a bit like playing a video game. So we are really working very hard and constantly with clients in relation to their business planning and continuity. We're trying to get people to say, we're going to plan for your business and help it continue. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here, guys, but I'm just going to hit a few key areas that I'm finding that clients aren't considering in some areas, and really where they should be focusing. So, and I've broken it down into 7 areas, okay? And critical to everyone at the moment is cash. We must preserve cash. You must do everything possible within your business, as we've said here, to build a war chest. Because at the moment, we're in a pretty tough situation. It's potentially going to get much worse. So we need to be planning for next week, next month, next year. So please keep that in mind. Cash is king. Even though we're all contactless and we use cards, the cash in your business is critical right now. You need to do everything within your power to preserve cash, get cash in the door, minimize what you're spending, minimize other outgoings. So we'll talk about that as well in a minute. Banks and funding, talk to your banks now. If you haven't already done it, you're about a week behind the 8 ball. Contact your bank. ring them, although you'll probably struggle to get through, but email your bank, email your relationship manager, go into a branch if necessary, talk to your banks. We'll talk about a few things in a minute about what the banks are doing, and we mentioned it a minute ago, but you must talk to your banks about if you have borrowings or any form of facility. You should be talking to them about repayment holidays, quarantining of interest, managing interest rates, that, any increases, potentially fixing rates. Talk to them about what you're capable of doing. The banks came out in last Saturday's West, if you saw it, and again, a bit like the government, they said they're going to do wonderful things for small business and help us through this, and work very closely. To today, I'm yet to see anyone secure anything with their banks. So I happily hear from anyone that says, yes, I've been able to achieve X, Y, and Z. So it might just be the banks being slow. It might be that they're talking, in nice terms at the moment, but they just can't get themselves there. So critical that you talk to the banks. This also extends to, even if you don't have borrowings, have you got access to a line of credit? Have you got access to a credit card? Have you got something for a rainy day? Talk to the banks. There are secondary lenders out there as well that can offer just having something there just in case. It's not your preferred source of funding, but you need to consider it. Again, we'll come back to that. Protection, this is in relation to yourself personally, and everyone should understand that that's in business, but sadly not everyone does have them in place. A will and an enduring power of attorney. It sounds bleak, but sadly, as we know, people are dying from this. People are incapacitated in ICU. If that happens to anyone and they're in business, if they die, we obviously know the tragic consequences. But if you are incapacitated, your business could be hamstrung, your partner, spouse, family could be incapacitated from or stopped from acting in certain ways. Please consider wills and enduring powers of attorney. We have added complications in getting these documents signed at the moment due to social isolation. We're working with a law firm currently that is putting measures in place to be able to witness documents, sign them, execute. So talk to us or talk to your solicitors if you need those in place. But critical at the moment, it's bringing it home to roost for a lot of people, sadly. Your management team. If you have a business with a management team, your key people in your business, you need to be working extremely close with. Again, Claude and I there's a wall between us in the office. For those of you who don't know, we're now working remotely. We closed our office Monday and we are all working remotely. I'm actually in the office today, but primarily for this, but I think I've spoken to Claude more constantly throughout the last 5 days than I do even when he's right next door. So talk to your management team, talk to your colleagues, find out what other people are doing, but talk to the team and your employees, your broader team. There's so much stress and anxiety out there at the moment. Okay, everyone is concerned about their jobs, concerned about their businesses, concerned about their mortgage, their kids, their health, the financial markets, their superannuation. This is a once in my lifetime event, as I see it, that everything at the moment is at risk. It's not as if the share market has just crashed, because normally when that happens, the property market goes up, or vice versa. It's not as if interest rates are up, because when they're up, certain other things are down. Everything is impacted by this. So please talk to your employees as a whole, individually, give them some comfort or be honest with them. That's what I would say. And that's what I'm advising all our clients to do. Just talk to them about what's happening, what you're feeling, what you see the future being. I don't have the answers on what the future holds, but we need to be able to talk to people about it. And customers and suppliers similarly. Okay, in your business, you might have a supplier go under, you might have a customer go under. You need to know what's going on across the board. So again, you need to work out, if you're in business, try and keep things as normal as possible. But if you can't do that, communicate with people and try and think outside the square with certain things as well. Importantly, most of the people on this call, small business owners, employees, key people within a business, this has a serious impact on all of us, what's going on, because all of you would be impacted in the same way I am. You open the paper, you turn on the TV, you walk down the street. It's everywhere and it's constant. So it is extremely stressful and anxiety causing. So please look after your own personal mental health, look after that of your family, of your team. We need to look after each other. I think this is potentially something life-changing for most of us, where we will start to think about what's going on and how it impacts everyone else around the world. But primarily the people in your day-to-day life. So keep that in mind, but please look after yourself. These are tough times, tougher than for some than others. So let's also be conscious of that. Okay, so they're the 7 areas we're talking to clients about, where it's, once we delve into it, it's very, very detailed, but they're the key areas. So please, you'll get a copy of this. Just go through and give yourself a moment to think about each of those, please. I think everyone that's in business owes it to themselves to do that. So that's the main part of our presentation today. We have 13 minutes. We have effectively compiled our frequently asked questions from our invite. Some of these have already been answered, I hope. So I will run through these reasonably quickly, but I'll again ask Claude to pull me up if there's anything that we haven't. And Serena, please give me a yell if there's anything that you think people still need to be talking about, okay? So we've effectively, this is one of the questions we got asked. These are real questions too, guys, so they were submitted, so thank you very much. How do we access the stimulus package? I believe we dealt with that earlier via the March BAS and ongoing activity statements and business activity statements going forward over the next 6 months, 9 months effectively. So that's how you get access. You don't need to register, you don't need to apply anywhere. It'll come through lodging of your BAS or activity statement for each month. We can come back to these shortly as well if anyone has further questions. What can we do about our existing bank facilities? Again, get on the front foot, talk to your bank. Just make contact, let them know you're there. Claude came up with something yesterday that he had found that if you go to your bank, it seems critical that you actually say, my business is affected by COVID-19. Okay, now Blind Freddie can see that most businesses are. However, that seems to be a trigger within the banking world to step it up a notch. If you just go to the bank and say, oh, I've got a bit of trouble with my cash flow, or I need some extra funding, you'll get potentially sidelined with some of the banks. So keep that in mind. If that's what's happening, declare it early. Claude?
Just further on that, Kelvin, also applies to utility companies. So you're talking to your electricity, water, gas.
Correct. Yes.
Apparently, you need to mention you are being affected by the coronavirus or COVID-19, and they have measures in place to help you. If you just say that you're struggling financially, they won't prompt you any further. So I thought that was a really good tip that I came across. So just keep that in mind. If you are talking to your banks, you are talking to insurance people, utility companies, you need to specifically mention you are have been impacted and affected by the coronavirus, and they will trigger policies in place to help you.
Thank you, Claude. I've just been given the hurry up too, guys, so apologies for dragging the feet a bit, but I'll keep going and I might jump through these reasonably quickly. I know the next few, and I believe we have answered them. Again, what can we do about our existing facilities? Talk to the bank. Okay, same answer as the last one. We do have a loan payment freeze fact sheet, which we will send out to everyone. So I'm not going to go through that at the moment because it details bank by bank what they're offering, what they're telling us they're offering. So if you allow me to, I won't jump onto that. I'll keep going for the moment. Can I borrow more? Yes, you can. Okay, again, the banks are saying they will lend. There's financiers out there in the market that will give you what we used to call the old no doc loans. They're costly, but it does allow you access to some capital if it is necessary and if it's your only choice. Otherwise, consider what your other options are. So please talk to your primary bankers to begin with. Okay. How do I approach my landlord? A lot of people are asking this. I would say definitely speak to them. Definitely talk to them, write to them, email them, talk about a rent reduction. If you've had a reduction in business or your business has ceased, you must talk to your landlord. Okay, it's critical that you do that, because that's a fixed contract that could cost you dearly if you let it go too much longer. So again, if you haven't spoken to your banks and if you haven't spoken to your landlord, you're about a week late. Currently, please get moving. Do that. The clients we're working with, we've been working on some templates to help them seek reductions, seek holidays, all those sorts of things. So please do so if possible. Same applies on the other side where we've got landlord clients. They're getting hit up already. So we're seeing both sides of it. What do I do about cash flow? You must plan for it. You must break down your cash flow, definitely monthly, if not weekly, and in some cases daily. Prepare a cash flow statement. It can be the back of an envelope. You can do it in Excel. You can do it in something complex. It doesn't have to be complex. We do a quick and dirty cash flow with clients. We work with them. We probably spend 1, 2, maybe 3 hours with a client. We're doing it as efficiently and as, it's the wrong word, but cheaply, cost efficiently as possible. But you need to consider your business at least cash flow out 3 to 6 months. You need to see where you're going in the future. Okay, so really recommend it. You must look at what's happening in the current market. Am I insolvent? You need to consider that in the context of what I said earlier about the ASIC situation. Every business is different. Are you trading whilst insolvent? Can you pay your bills when they fall due? What assets have you got on the balance sheet? What commitments have you got? Again, happy to talk to you about those things, but if you are insolvent and you truly believe that there's issues, you must talk to ourselves. You must talk to an insolvency practitioner. You must seek assistance if you think things are bleak and not getting any better. Okay, so as sad as it is, we're there to help you if that's the case. Actually, we are here. This was a good question as well. Am I entitled to both the business and the individual stimulus payments? The answer to that is yes. Okay. However, in certain circumstances, if you are an active eligible employer and you had an ABN at 12th of March, you're entitled to the business stimulus packages. If you are a sole trader, you potentially are entitled, sole trader, or one of these other types of businesses, you can also be entitled to the individual stimulus package. So you could be across both, and hopefully our explanation earlier answers some of those questions for you. So talk to us or go back over the original notes. So what is available now and how is it accessed? I believe we've covered that. Centrelink for individuals, business, the wage support for businesses, and superannuation, obviously. Again, this is a good summary of what you are entitled to. What tax-free payments? We have talked about those, the pay-as-you-go withholding. Is there a safety net for sole traders if you reduce by 20%? Okay, so keep that in mind, and Centrelink. And the activity statement reductions are, as we discussed earlier, based on your pay-as-you-go withholding. Okay, that is really all of the FAQs that we had submitted. So what I'm going to do in a moment is open the floor to other questions, and I believe Serena will be compiling these via the chat. People informed, keeping you up to date, and trying to help everyone in a leveraged way. So that Claude, you've got access to Claude and I, and we can speak to you on this basis. So I am going to ask Serena, where are we? I do have some questions. Okay, so Shannon, thanks for your question. Your question is, what are the eligibility requirements for remaining active for the second boost payment? So am I entitled if we temporarily shut down? So Shannon, I believe if you're referring to, all right, well, you're active at the moment for the March quarter, you will be entitled to a credit for your withholding on the March quarter. However, going forward, you will at the very least be entitled to the second $10,000 payment. Claude, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, again, it's as long as you are submitting wages on your activity statements. So the only issue I can see there, Shannon, is that if you say that you've paid zero wages, then, and again, we're still getting a lot of details on how this is all going to work, as I said before. But I'm just sort of thinking that maybe if you do lodge that you've had no wages paid because you've closed your business, there may be an issue with getting as a minimum, the $10,000. But again, we are still getting new information almost daily. So we will, and I'm guessing as the BASs for March get lodged in the next week or so, we will know a lot more about all these like quirky bits and how best to deal with them and handle them.
Shannon, my understanding is that, and again, if you ceased on Monday, for example, but you withheld during the March quarter, you'll get your amount, your credit for your withholding for that quarter. And up to 30 June, you will get at least $10,000. That's the first boost, being the minimum of 10 in this financial year, and you will get the $10,000 next financial year. So that requires that you continue to lodge your returns, you continue to be a business, ABN, registered as an employer, those sorts of things. So hopefully that's answered your question. But again, we're happy to chat further if you've still got questions on that. As I said, within a week, we will be in a position whereby we'll be lodging the BASs, as Claude said. We'll be seeing what's going on. We'll be looking on the ATO portal to see what money's coming back, what credits you're getting. But my view is you'll be entitled to $10,000 this financial year, at least, and $10,000 next financial year. Okay. So Serena, does anyone else have any questions that they may have? Pamela? So your question is, you're speaking for businesses and individuals. Is this for small companies as well? Thanks, Pamela. If you operate as a company, it's irrelevant what business structure you operate. If you are an employer, then you are entitled to the PAYG withholding credits. Okay, so it doesn't matter, sole trader, partnership, trust, company, and charities as well are entitled to this. You will get a credit for your PAYG withholding, and or you will get your minimum $10,000 as we discussed with Shannon a second ago. Hopefully that answers your question, Pamela. Anyone else have any questions that they might like to ask?
Like it.
No. How are we going for time? We are a minute over. So look, I am happy to wrap up if we don't have any other questions. And that was our intent. Claude and I worked very hard with our team internally here as well to make sure we covered off on most questions we'd been getting asked and questions that have been asked most recently. So you're welcome, Pamela. Happy to help you offline as well. I was just about to say, you have our contact details for Claude and I. If you do have any further questions, we encourage you to talk to us. As a client of our firm, if you do want to talk to us, come and talk. Actually, I say come and talk to us. Get in touch with us. We're doing most of our meetings via Zoom. We are, as I said earlier, operating remotely, but more than happy to set up a Zoom meeting, chat to you online, chat to you over the phone. We are here to help. We might not be physically in our offices day to day anymore. However, we are available. We're working normal hours. We have access to all of our resources, all of our infrastructure remotely. So we did that a long time ago, not with this in mind, but we have the capabilities to talk to people online. So please, I encourage you to get in touch. Oh, sorry, Pamela, you have another question. Do we have to pay the PAYG credits back when this is all over? No, you do not. This is a tax-free grant, if you like, from the ATO. They are actually crediting you that amount. They're not going to come back and ask you for the amount that you get back. I'm not silly enough to think that the government isn't one day going to have to increase taxes, put levies on everyone across the board, but let's hope that's a long way down the track and we don't have to consider it. For the moment, it's about survival. If the government is going to give you a credit, grab it with both hands and utilise it in your business. Okay.
Just on that, Pamela, the only time the ATO will potentially ask you for back is if you fraudulently all of a sudden pay wages that you're not entitled to, and because they are saying that, because there's been a lot of chatter that people are trying to come up with schemes to backdate employees from 1 January and artificially say they withheld wages. The ATO will be looking very closely at this. Might not be straight away, but once things settle down, they will start to look at everything.
If you're a legitimate employer, though,
you're fine.
Do not concern yourself. Just do it. You're emitting tax. You're entitled to a credit. Well and truly entitled to it. So, sorry, I've just seen a question again from Shannon. For the sole purpose, making the entitled cash flow boost. Yes. So Shannon, you've just ripped that from either the omnibus bill, as they call it, or the ATO website. So that's really what we're talking about, but that's not what's getting a lot of airplay out there. So that's where Claude was coming from a minute ago. If you try and rort the system, they're not going to be very happy with you. When they find out about it is, another issue. But again, if we're talking legitimately employers, employees, go for it. You just need to be able to get this into your business right now. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Thank you for that, Shannon, as well. Appreciate that. Look, sorry, this is evolving daily, guys. So we are moving with it daily as well. So things are changing. We're hearing more from the banks. We're hearing more from the government. We're hearing more from clients. Stay in touch with us. We'll try and keep you updated. We may even run these regularly, as in, someone's just asked a question, Pamela. You've just asked what I was about to say. We may do these weekly going forward. We may tell you what the landscape is. We may tell you what's happening. And hopefully on the other side of it, when we come out of it, we may tell you how to take advantage of that. Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to wrap up. I will ask that if there are other questions, please send them through. Claude and I will do our best to answer them over the next day or so. I may not be able to talk. I think I am starting to lose my voice, but we'll come back to you. So stay in touch. I really do appreciate your time today. It's tough going out there, but please, everyone, keep your chin up, battle through. We will get through this. There is potential, well, hopefully, and I believe there is light at the end of the tunnel if we can see our way through it. I encourage you to talk to us, talk to your family, and Serena has just reminded me, take a look at our website in relation to other webinars, in relation to other blog posts that we put up, information that we feel is relevant to you and your business. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in today. I do appreciate it. Thanks, Claude. Thanks, Serena.
Thanks, everyone.
And I wish you all well. Please, go back to your businesses. Hopefully make a success of everything. And hopefully we've added positively to what you've been doing and what you can do in the future. Thank you very much. If nothing else, enjoy your weekend, everyone, and have a good Friday night.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.